this evening. What is good, my people? How y'all feeling tonight? You alright? It's your man Donald King, a jingling. I'm so stupid. I have fun with it though, man. I have fun. Try to have fun. It's a lot. It's a lot doing this, man. Um, I say the surest sign of mental instability is losing the ability to laugh at yourself. By the way, I know I'm a few minutes early on this, but might as well get into it now because these things have a tendency to spill over a bit. The subject I want to get into today, before I open it up just question and answer. I really, really want to get to answering a lot of you guys' questions. The subject of today is reality doesn't recognize or honor human agreements and or beliefs. All right? When you think about religion, religion is basically a system of agreements humans came up with to satisfy God. That's what a belief system is. It's a system of agreements humans came up with on their own towards satisfying and or tempering the wrath of some all-powerful being. Before it was the monotheistic, entity of today, there were gods and demigods. People used to build altars and bow to them. They would worship the sun. And basically what it was a bunch of humans coming up with these systems of agreements among themselves that if they followed these rituals and impacted upon the world in such a way that they earned the favor of this entity whose power existed above and beyond their scope of influence, well, then they'd be all right. So people would worship the sun, and they would dance from rain, and they would pray to volcanoes, and before long they start praying to the firmament in the belief that there was a heavenly Father sort of orchestrating everything and who they could basically coerce into being nice to them. Belief systems. What is a belief? A belief is an agreement a person makes with themselves. A belief is an agreement you make with yourself. Belief falls into 8 basic categories, all right? And I've covered this in past work, but I'll break it down for you again. Belief entails opinion, speculation, intention, preference, an ideation of authority, ideation of agreement, ideation of justice, and there's a final one there that's kind of skipping my mind right now. But it's like I'll get back to it in a bit, I'm sure. But these are all different types of agreements you make with yourself. When you form an opinion about something, you basically make an agreement with yourself about the type and amount of value it has. When you speculate, you form an opinion you form a belief or an agreement with yourself about what exists beyond your scope and ability for verification. Speculation, intention. When you form an intention, it's basically an agreement you make with yourself about something you plan to execute or experience. When you form a preference, it's an agreement you make with yourself about what your likes and dislikes are. I could go down an entire list here, but every belief is an agreement you make with yourself. Every belief you hold is an agreement you made with yourself. The problem is, agreements don't exist in reality. They only exist in idealism. Agreements do not exist in reality. They only exist in idealism. When you make an agreement with someone, you enter into a bond, a contract with them in idealism, wherein both of you are going to uphold your part of the bond you've formed between you, for whatever reason it may be. It may be business, it may be romantic, it may be friendship or familial. Basically, when you make an agreement with someone, it's basically I'm going to put my intention towards this thing we're entering into. And it's agreement you make with them and an agreement you make with yourself, but that agreement doesn't account for unforeseen occurrences. It doesn't account for things that exist outside your realm and scope of influence or perceptibility. It's basically just an idea, a belief. Reality does not recognize or deal in beliefs. Period. Now, therein comes an interesting part. Reality doesn't recognize or deal in agreements, but does that mean that no agreement is valid? Well, not necessarily so. Humans, when they form agreements with each other in efforts to sort of establish bonds and symbiosis and means for common ground for interacting, when or if a person breaks an agreement with another individual, they create a ripple effect that ultimately lends itself to creating imbalance in the grand scheme of relationships in society, which adds to the level of aggression the hive mind experiences and sort of channels through all of its virions. So honoring agreements with people that you make, you have to do that. You have to honor agreements that you make with yourself in order to keep your word. You have to honor agreements that you make with others in order to keep balance and symbiosis. But expecting reality to honor agreements you make with yourself, it doesn't work that way. Expecting reality to honor agreements you make with others, it doesn't work that way. You know how many people have made all of these stories up about what it's like in heaven and how to get to heaven? Oh, there's 72 virgins. Oh, there's, streets of gold and pearly gates. I've actually been to heaven. None of the rules of physicality apply over there. None. Everything that you hear about heaven from religion is a lie. It's a straight up lie. Like, you're not even in one location over there. You're like for me, when I was there, I was in like 6 or 7 locations at the exact same time. I was in there go, Sister Isha, hey girl, how you doing tonight? Pretty self. Let me see. Hey, I'm funneled. Okay, very good. I like that. But yo, like I told you, man, I was over and I've already been to heaven. I've already been to heaven, and everything that humans came up with to describe what heaven is like is off. There's no such thing as gold over there. Reality doesn't care about the value humans place on material effects or on minerals. The fact that gold is valuable, that's a human concept. And or those who sort of transmuted humans. But these are agreements that we've made among ourselves. Reality doesn't give a shit about how we value gold. Reality doesn't care about the sanctity or purity of women in terms of them being virgins or not. These are human values. And we sit around and we agree to these values and we're like, hey, this is what God wants. This is how things are over there. And you've never been. You don't know. And somehow you have these huge, massive faith systems wherein people they've built entire identities and nations and economic systems around this system of agreements they came up with based on stories that weren't verified, that couldn't be verified. You know how many people kill in the name of their gods because they think they're doing something good or holy? Someone told them, this is what God wants you to do. And they recognize the belief system, the system of agreements, over and ahead of reality itself. Which brings us back to the point. Reality doesn't give a fuck about what you guys believe and or agree to among yourselves or with each other. Do you think because you put on a uniform and you call yourself a cop, you can go out and kill whoever you want, or terrorize and injure people for your amusement and satisfaction? Is that what you think? Do you think because your skin is a particular hue that it licenses you to go around and be bullies and vigilantes? Do you think hiding behind flags gives you the right to go and murder and just genocide and create all sorts of calamity in the world? Yeah, you guys may believe this, and or you may have all bought into this belief that you're allowed to do whatever you want because of social artifacts and meanings you've agreed to among yourselves. In reality, nothing works that way. Everything has a ripple effect. Everything has a cost. Any imbalance you create that becomes a ripple effect that translates into other systems, it comes out of your ass. What you believe and or agree to with yourself is immaterial to that fact. Brother, absurd the word! Let me see. That was one of my primary bits of information that drove me away from religion. The explanations presented didn't match my experience. Very good. Very good. And that was me too. I couldn't articulate it as well as you just did back in the day. But, from the time that I was raised in religion, I never believed any of it because it didn't have a flow and consistency to me. It seemed like a bunch of things that people just made up that weren't really verified by anything over and beyond their own inner stories, and I still feel that way. There are a lot of really great points that you can glean from the various faith systems. I think that all of them do have some intrinsic good in that they serve to try and elevate the person out of the mind state of selfishness and towards thinking in a state of, or thinking communally and or in a state of, I'd say, qualified symbiosis. However, the majority of it is tribal and it's self-glorifying, and it's basically telling people they're right for simply being like situationally paired with individuals and placed within regions that hold a specific ideology, and it's a fucking mess. But reality does not honor human agreements. It does not. One of the most dangerous things about making agreements with yourself is that, well, you have a tendency to sort of exclude reality and others performing within reality. Oftentimes you'll see people come to my threads and they've come up with all these meanings and beliefs for what I am and how I am. They immediately jump to the conclusion that I'm somehow mentally defective, that I'm crazy or narcissistic or delusional or whatever they can come up with to try and explain me and make me something that's convenient to their inner story, right? Thing is, they jump to these conclusions, jump into a conclusion, speculation, without actually consulting what's happening in reality. They come up with a meaning or a label, and then they try to make me take ownership of and responsibility for this agreement that they've made with themselves about me and about who, what, how, and why I am. They completely made an agreement with themselves about me, and then instead of arguing against me, they argue against the agreement they've manufactured in their mind about who, what, how, and why I am. People do this oftentimes. They come up with these agreements where they're like, oh, this is what he'll do. This is how it is. He won't care. Speaking of which, yo, it's like, I'm gonna tell y'all the story. I'm gonna tell y'all this actually happened to me, right? So this is a story about the time I lost my virginity, right? So embarrassing, but fuck it. Let's throw me under the bus. So there was this girl who had come to stay with my family at the time, right? She was kind of wild. She was out there, you know what I'm saying? And she had already had a kid and whatnot. And I'm 15, 16 or something like that. I think it might have been 15 or 16 or something, man. I'm not going to say the young lady's name. But she came to me and, she'd been flirting with me all night, and then things started to get a little bit, they started getting into that darker territory where it was darker back then to me. It's like now it is what it is. It's just humans and flesh. It's holes and fleshy mounds. But anyway, this girl, she comes out and she starts doing stuff to flirt with me, and I feel hard because it's like, man, my libido is like, dude, even now, fucking about to be 45, my libido is sky high. So I'm sitting here and it's like, I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? So anyway, she comes to my room that night, and we're sitting here and we're just kind of petting each other and whatnot and kissing, and all of a sudden it's like I decide that I'm Big Willie, and I'm like, all right, I'm ready. Let's do this. I'm prepared. I wasn't prepared. But anyway, right before we get into it, she says to me, she's like, but what about Jehovah? And, I was raised Jehovah's Witness, and I was like, oh, he'll forgive me. I didn't even think about it because, well, I wanted some pussy. And lo and behold, that moment stuck with me my entire life. It wasn't the sex, which lasted all of fucking 5 seconds. It was newbie. It wasn't newbie. But it was the fact that even though I didn't believe in God back then, I was so quick to just abandon everything to get something that I wanted. I made an agreement on behalf of an entity I wasn't sure was real or wasn't real because it was convenient. I made an agreement on behalf of something I didn't have the power to verify or disprove because it was convenient to me. The shame of that moment never left. It stuck with me through the years. Even after I was an atheist, Even after I came back to whatever it is you call this now, and I'm going to call myself a believer, but more of an experiencer, but I abandoned my values that quickly because they were convenient, or because it was convenient to something I wanted to do. Never quite lived that down. And it goes to show exactly what happens for most people. Beliefs, agreements we make with ourselves, they're malleable. They're easily destroyed. They're easily destroyed. You know the reason why so many people are afraid to hang around why so many straight men are afraid to hang around homosexual men? It's because they know that the agreements they've made with themselves about their masculinity are flimsy. And all it takes is someone to come along and put a little bit of pressure on them, and then all of a sudden, their agreement with themselves goes out the window. When you don't have a real sense of self, and your entire life and outlook and worldview is sort of rooted in this inner story, this collection of meanings and symbols and beliefs, habits, and practices you've internalized and seek to self-actualize through. Anybody can come along and change you at any point in time, because what you are is not grounded in reality, but instead in an agreement you've made with yourself that may or may not hold up under pressure. That is what it boils down to, people. Reality doesn't recognize agreements. It doesn't recognize agreements humans make with themselves. So all these people out here who are pissed at me for explaining what I am and for being what I am, they're like, hey, you're speaking against the agreements that I've internalized. All right. Maybe. What I'm speaking on behalf of doesn't give a fuck. Doesn't give a shit about what you've agreed to. It won't change itself for you. It's not going to bend in order to accommodate your feelings and beliefs. It doesn't care what your pastor told you, or your priest, or your rabbi. It doesn't care how many people agree with you about what exists beyond perceptibility. Human agreements mean nothing to reality. And again, they mean something within the throes of society, because when you break agreements, social agreements and or interpersonal agreements, especially agreements between bonds that are formed between individuals, you create ripple effects that pass through the system, which necessarily count against you. So when I say that I'm going to do something, I try to keep my word. I try to keep my word because I don't want to create negative ripple effects that go on to impact the world negatively in the grand scheme of things. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Or I do my damnedest to do it. If I tell myself I'm going to do something, I do it. Or do my damnedest to do it. You know why? Because if I don't keep my word to myself, then how can I trust myself? If I can't trust myself, then who can I trust? But is reality going to beat me up because I didn't keep an agreement to myself? No. As long as the agreement that I break to another individual doesn't cause them to become enraged and to go and start enraging others, and then in so elevating the level of tension and aggression in society, which causes society to aggress against the planet even harder, then I probably don't have anything to worry about there. But it's like I'm all about just trying to stay in balance and stay honest. So to me, honesty is everything. I'm trying to stay honest, dog. Trying to stay honest. But, and I guess I should make some delineation here. The agreements that we make with ourselves about reality don't mean shit. The agreements we make with each other about how we're going to perform and how we're going to try and maintain balance and symbiosis, that shit sticks. Do your best to be honorable in what you say, in what you do, but don't expect the things that you tell yourself or tell each other to affect reality. Especially things that dip deeper and deeper into idealism. You sit down here and be like, everybody, if we all just dance counterclockwise and we look into the moon, then it's like it's going to shift the world in another direction and we'll start the cycle of life all over again. That's some shit that you all agree to that doesn't mean shit in reality. It doesn't mean shit in reality, dog. Human agreements mean nothing to reality. You only need to honor your agreements with others, but don't make agreements with humans on reality's behalf. Even as a matter of fact, me being an avatar, I don't make agreements on reality's behalf. I don't. I explain what I see to the best of my ability, sans embellishment or withholding, and I don't try and step up and be like, hey, if you do this, then reality's going to do that. No, fuck that. It's not my place. Don't make agreements on behalf of reality. Don't. You don't have the strength, you don't have the ability, you don't have the means to make them viable. You simply don't. So anywho, it was good. Damn, I thought more people was gonna chime in. What's up, folk? How y'all out there tonight? Y'all feeling all right? Y'all good? Y'all gravy? ATL ho? No. I like Jamal the Creative. I like that. I like their clique, the ATL universe. So yeah, man. Don't make agreements on behalf of reality. And if you do make agreements with others, honor those agreements. If you make agreements with yourself, honor your agreements. That's how you become a solid individual. When you make it a point to be honest with each other and as a person, and you say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to let's say you make a challenge to do, 50 sit-ups a day. Honor your agreement with yourself. Honor your agreement with yourself. Don't let, fatigue or laziness or lack of interest stop you from keeping to your fucking promise to yourself. Do it. But don't say, hey, if I do 50 sit-ups, then God is going to bless my house with favor. No, it's not how it works. It's not how it works, Say, hey, you know what? If I do this, then God is going to do that. No, that's one of the things. People are always like, I'm blessed and highly favored. I'm like, what kind of narcissistic bullshit is that? I'm blessed and highly favored? You've made an agreement on behalf of God? The vanity is insane. The vanity is off the fucking charts. I'm blessed and highly favored. Says who? The fact that you would even mention something like that suggests that you're not in theme with God. I do my... Hey, you know what? I'm grateful. I'm grateful. God has given me talent, and he's allowed me to use it, or it's allowed me to use it. And things are not always amazing, but things are never terrible. I'm always moving forward to the best of my ability. I don't expect anything, but I'm grateful for everything I get. That's better. But I'm blessed and highly favored. What kind of narcissistic bullshit is that? I'm chosen. Fuck out of here. So yeah, man. Yep. That is how it goes. How it goes. The goal for everyone should be to get out of belief, to get out of idealism, and to sync up with reality. That's the whole point of everything that I'm trying to show you guys. All you have to do is practice reasoning and honesty. The only way for you to practice reasoning and honesty is to set aside idealism and to let go of belief, because the beliefs, the agreements you made with yourself, don't mean shit in reality. The only agreements to you, the only agreements that matter or should matter that you make to yourself are those when you dedicated yourself to being your very best and you refuse to let minor deterrences stop you from keeping your agreement to what you're going to do. That has to do with performance. Hey, I hold myself to a high standard. I expect myself to perform to the best of my ability. I'm going to honor my word to others. I'm going to be a solid individual. These are the types of agreements to yourself that you keep, but you don't make agreements on behalf of reality. People who do that, they operate through the authoritarian mode. If you operate through the authoritarian mode, you're an ideologue. You're either an aggressive ideologue or you're a passive ideologue. You're an aggressive coward or a passive coward. If you're an aggressive coward, then you're trying to force your inner story onto everyone and everything around you. If you're a passive coward, then you just want some authority to think for you so that you don't have to think for yourself and so that you can feel less scared. But in either event, if you're an ideologue, you prioritize authority over and ahead of reality itself, which always works to your detriment. You have to agree with yourself that authority is right and reality is wrong. That's an agreement you make with yourself. It's a belief. Am I wrong? You know what's really interesting? And then I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping everything up here. But the other day, science actually verified the fact that I see through the avatar perspective. It was so interesting. It was this young boy by the name of, I think it's Matthew Whitaker. He's a piano prodigy. And I forget what state he's in right now, but he's a piano prodigy. He's blind, and just judging based on the way that he thinks and he sort of speaks, he's on the autism spectrum, much like myself. And this kid, he's been blind since early childhood, and because he was born at 24 weeks. Oddly enough, just like my little boy, like my son. So I felt a real special connection to this young dude. But he was born at 24 weeks, and he had retinopathy. So his eyes didn't develop properly, and as a result, he was blind. Well, now he's this amazing piano prodigy, and they put him in an fMRI machine, and they wanted to study his brain patterns, his brain waves when he was actually listening to music. So first they did they were looking at his visual cortex, and they were kind of checking out how his mind was working when he was listening to someone just speak. And I think that they gave a lecture they were playing a lecture from I think it was Ben Stein, when he was teaching back in the day. And the dude's visual cortex, it was just like blue. It was flatlining. But anyway, they went ahead and they started playing some snarky puppy to him while he was in the MRI machine, and then all of a sudden his visual cortex lit clean the fuck up. And I'm not sure that they would have made the correlation, but the reason for it is because even though he was blind, his visual cortex lit up because he was looking at a series and systems of principles. In the same way I purport to whenever I'm describing these phenomena to you, when I say that I'm looking through the avatar perspective. It's a different pair of eyes. It still stimulates the same part of the brain. You're still navigating and looking around and stuff like that and seeing how things fit, flow, and interact together, but it's a different pair of eyes. If he can do it with being blind, then it just goes to show that having sight beyond sight isn't something that is unique to my case. There are other people who have this ability too, like for instance, what's his name? Daniel Tammet, who can see math structures and who charted out pi to 22,000 digits over the course of, I think it was like 6 hours. But when you can see how shit fits and flows together, you don't, it's, well, it's again, it's just a different type of sight. But that was really interesting. Anywho, I see that no one else has chimed in. Oh, wait, damn. There's other people who chimed in. All right, cool. Let me see. Brother Absurd. Would it be accurate calling authority an attempt to be like God? Absolutely. Absolutely. Authority is attempting to be like God. Authority is attempting to be like God. Authority, again, is the power to determine meanings, order, and the outcome of events. So any person who either wants to be the authority or who looks to authority to give them direction, they're always going to be searching for either to be or for whatever has the power to determine meanings, order, and the outcome of events. And if you were to liken that to religion's God, God being omnipotent, then God would be the ultimate power which determines meanings, order, and the outcome of events. So yeah, people who are ideologues who think in that vein, that's ultimately what it boils down to. Brother Ash Bro! Okay, let me see. They are engaging in the ad hominem fallacy, attacking the essence or credibility of the person instead of talking to or of the meanings or messages being offered, which distracts from them and get people stuck doing circles, attacking something that little information is being offered about. Absolutely the case, always. Because again, the people, they're going to be, they're not actually interacting with the person. Ad hominem fallacy is what occurs, and actually all logical fallacies is what occurs when people are not actually engaged in the discussion and interacting with the person who they're trying to debate, but instead they're attacking and trying to defeat an agreement they've made in their mind about the person. So all the people who come to my post trying to attack and fight and I'm going to beat you down, O King, they're not interacting with me directly. They're interacting with me inside their mind and or with a sort of figment of their imagination they've created and attributed to me, which is why they're always off target and can never fucking stay on topic. Brother Ashbro writes again, there's also two other fallacies there. I think the component fallacy, also known as the generalization fallacy, which is building a case for the whole or an entire kind based on a few information points. And there is another. I'll find out and edit this comment after the live. We'll get back to you. Absolutely. All logical fallacies, they trace back to this very basic principle in which the person committing the fallacy is not engaging with the person in reality. They're not engaging with the argument in reality in real time. What they are instead doing is, again, they're attacking the agreement they made with themselves about the argument or about the person. They formed a belief about the person, they formed a belief, and they're arguing against the belief, not the actual individual. This is the reason why the majority of the people who friend request me through the years after they've seen me get into these debates in these various forums and rooms, they're like, oh, you handle yourself so well. Oh, you make so much sense. Yeah. What they see is me actually engage the conversation in real time and actually deal with the elements of discourse in real time, as opposed to retreating into my inner story and only attacking feelings and beliefs I manufactured about the individual who's trying to debate against me and or what they've said. So again, when a person forms a belief, it's an agreement they make with themselves. It's an agreement they made with themselves. And if you argue against an agreement you've made with yourself, you lose sight of who and what is actually performing in reality. I've lost a couple of relationships that way. People form opinions about me and then interact with their beliefs and or the agreements they formed about me instead of actually interacting with me in real time. You know, it's like I start off as being the most intelligent and emotionally healthy person they've ever seen. Oh my God, you're amazing. You're the most well balanced thinker I've ever happened across in my entire life. I'm like, word, thank you very much. And then after that, all of a sudden, little points set in, and they're like, oh, this is how you are, that's how you are, this is how you are, that's how you are. And all of a sudden, they create a system of meanings in their mind, and then they agree to these meanings and sort of exclude me in reality from this version of me they created in their mind. And then they're kind of like, oh, this is how you are, that's how you are, this is how you are, that's how you are, you always do this, you always do that. And you're like, that's not how this goes. That's not what's actually happening now. And it doesn't matter what you say or do. You can't force anyone to change their feelings and beliefs. Only thing that can get them to do that is reality itself. And you know, that's just how it goes. So yeah, it's weird. It's weird. People, but it's not just me. This happens to everybody. Most people don't interact with individuals in reality. They interact with agreements they've made with themselves about individuals in reality, and as such, they just lose sight of everything other than how they're projecting outward onto the people and or the actors and players moving around them. It's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. Let me see. We have one more, and then we're going to have to cut it out because I'm going to have to get going. But Brother Ashbro writes, ego seems to be competing with the ideologies and meanings that surround it on the physiological level, the same ideologies that likely give it existence, because I can't imagine that an ego could stand on its own without meanings to fight against or agree with. It's a reflection of the way it judges meanings, but is never interacting with the present reality. Yup. That's all I can say is just yup. Yeah. That's basically how it works. Everything that happens in idealism is paradoxical. It's paradoxical. It's kind of both literal and not at the same time. Everything in idealism is paradoxical. So the ego wants to be full, but it never understands which appetite it's trying to feed, so it's always hungry. So you have humans who are driven by ego and or by parasitism who just consume mindlessly because they're trying to fill appetites that they don't know how to distinguish from the other. Some people are like, hey, I want validation. So what do? They go out and sleep with 100 people because they can't tell the difference between validation and sex. You have people who are like, hey, I want to feel powerful. I want to feel safe. I want to feel secure. So they go out and they amass all this power, and they create all these systemic disparities and imbalances because they're trying to amass power and they're trying to fill the wrong appetite. They don't want power. They just want to feel secure. But the ego, it can't tell the difference between its appetites, so it's always feeding the wrong one. It's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate indeed. But anywho, guys, y'all already know you can find me on social media. I'm obviously shooting this on Facebook Live. But you can catch me on Instagram. You can catch me on Medium. You can catch me on YouTube, of which I actually post all of these podcasts to. So you can check me out there if you missed any of them. Then you can always circle back. I'm thinking next time on Wednesday, I'll probably just do a live question and answer, man. Just, I want to really chop it up with y'all, man. Also, you can feel free to join the Patreon family. I am at Donald King, and I'm Avatar Cycle XIII and or Avatar Cycle 13. You can also catch me if you get any sort of appreciation or love out of what I'm doing here, and you just want to bless your boy with a little bit of love, like throw something in the collection plate, you can always cash at me at Donnie Kang. Donnie Kang. Yeah, so listen here, I appreciate y'all. I thank you so kindly for tuning in. You know, we're getting it done. Everything that I get, it always goes towards building this up to a larger platform. It always goes to building this to a larger platform because I want to reach as many people as I can while I'm in this body. We want to make this, we want to help as many people as I can. I don't know how long I'm going to be in this skin. It's like a pretty good understanding of what's going to happen and what's going to happen once I'm out of this body. But I don't know how long I'm going to be in it. So the crazy thing about having the avatar perspective, you can see the fabric, you can see behind the fabric of reality, but it's like you can't see the future. So you don't know how it's all going to play out. And as is the case with all things, only thing you can do is show up and try. That's what I do every day. I show up and I try. How it's going to pay off, I don't know. I'm not psychic. I can't see the future, man. But I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best. And only thing I want from y'all is to try to. That's all I can ask. Yo, thank you. Thank you, Brother Ash, bro. I appreciate y'all. Much love to all of you. You have yourselves a wonderful night, all right?